Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and in this video we are going to talk about India-Israel free trade agreement beyond dollar. What am I saying here? Beyond dollar? Yes, we are going to talk about that as well. We are going to explore beyond dollar, okay? Because the way India and Israel are working on signing the free trade agreement, the way Israel is shifting its defense framework and AI framework, the whole entire AI stack and all that, and is going to work with India and in sharing technology and all that. So it seems that there is a possibility of beyond dollar trade between India and Israel too down the line. May not happen overnight, but I would say the ground has been prepared. Okay, foundation is laid already for it. Now, how that is done, I'll tell you. Okay. Now, the question really is that did India and Israel sign the free trade agreement yet? No, they have not signed the agreement yet. The round one has finished. It finished in February 2026. Second round will be held in May 2026 and it will be held in Israel. This time, first round was in New Delhi. Second round will be in Israel. Okay. Now, what exactly happened today or yesterday? I mean, it's hard to track. I mean, the time between US and India like that, right? So, anyways, so what was signed today is the 16 MoUs, the Memoranda of Understanding, okay, which covered things like Iron Dome, that is missile defense system. Then you have UPI payment system. Then 50,000 Indian jobs in Israel to a joint AI center. Then and also the most important thing that happened is the relationship between India and Israel was elevated to special strategic partnership. It's not a bilateral relation for India. When India says bilateral relation, then for India bilateral relation simply means that, yeah, you and I are there, it's okay, we are in talking terms, more so like that, okay. But when India defines the relationship to a partnership level, meaning that partnership tells you that it's at the equal level, on equal footing, and then each and every uh, I would say the terminology, the way it is defined, like for example, in this case, it is saying special strategic partnership. Actually, I'm going to make a video about it someday too, because there is special strategic partnership, there is strategic partnership, then there is comprehensive special strategic partnership, like that. So India elevates these things accordingly, okay. So it's very important to understand those terminologies. Now, so the elevate it though, so the formally the relationship was elevated to special strategic partnership. And round one was actual FTA negotiation. It just concluded in one New Delhi, and as I said, that round two will be held in May 2026 in Israel. Now, the question really is that why, when I say dollar and all that, then what I'm talking about? See, there is one more thing that happened, and that is that UPI rail, the UPI payment system is now live in Israel, meaning that if a tourist, for example, okay, if a tourist goes to Israel and all they have to do is take out their phone, use the barcode, oh sorry, QR code, and make the payment, and that will be accepted in Israel as well. And things will be handled behind the scenes. The user won't have to worry about carrying Indian currency or the Israeli currency. Then another thing that happened is that Israel is also formally going to join, or is joining, or has joined Gift City Corridor, India's Gift City Corridor. For those who don't know what Gift City Corridor is, Gift City is the Gujarat International Financial Tech City. Okay, so what exactly it does in nutshell, what Gift City is, that it has currency exchange market, meaning that you can set up the currency exchange rates over there between the two countries. And then other special thing about it is that it does not follow the RBI, like India's Reserve Bank, of all the RBI rules and all that don't apply in Gift City. Okay, so if a country that actually uh, registers and big partners over there, then they only follow the World Trade Organization laws, the international laws, though the India's domestic trade laws do not apply in Gift City. That's the whole point. It's a special economic zone. All right. And lots of countries, any country that wants to develop economically and wants to advance economically, they have to have this type of special economic zone. So if a country has an economic zone, meaning that they are serious about their business. All right. Now, so what exactly is going on in this FTA? What else is being discussed and signed, and will this FTA be something that will transform into India Israel non-dollar denomination or national currency trade down the line? What are the possibilities? All that will be discussed in this podcast, guys. So please do stay with me till the end. Please do like and subscribe, and let's get started. Okay, let me start my deck here real quick. So free trade agreement negotiations underway. Round one concluded. We talked about all that. What's being negotiated? Where the money is? Where the India and Israel can ditch the dollar. All that will be discussed here. Okay. Now, first of all, let's talk about this. Address this elephant in the room. Can India and Israel ditch the dollar? See, there are 16 pacts that have been signed so far. Okay, let's go through all that, and then 16 packs signed in are in on February 26, 2026 included UPI based cross border payments. UPI based cross border payments and a gift city Israel financial corridor. And this is not just some like random fintech, it is the first architectural move towards trading in rupees and shekels instead of US dollar. Okay, this is going to simply enable India and Israel to trade in non-dollar denomination, that is in their national currencies. And now, since FTA has already not been signed and round one has just been concluded, so the question really is that why all this really matters. Okay, why all this matters, what's already in place and what's still missing. Why it matters is that every US dollar transaction costs both side conversion fees plus dollar exchange rate risk and eliminating what is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So when you and this is the see and this is the whole point of signing the free trade agreement, that you eliminate everything that is unnecessary. Free trade agreement simply means that getting rid of any unnecessary roadblocks to facilitate the trade and cut the cost. So when countries start to sign free trade agreement, then knowing all the dollar weaponization and currency weaponization and all these things, they realize that uh, they can actually, if they remove the dollar from the scene, then they can actually cut the cost, that is in conversion fees. And for a country like Israel, whose trade with India, annual trade with, I mean, overall total trade right now is basically $8 to $10 billion, give take. And in that $8 to $10 billion, and if they are paying a major chunk in dollar exchange rate and all that, right, as a conversion fees, and that costs you, let's say, $500,000 or $1 billion, then that is a big chunk of money, right? So to eliminate that, there is a possibility that they may do this thing. Okay. Now, and the framework for this is already in place. What do you need? You need a payment system that can be used to settle, that can be used to pay, and all you need is partners who will become banks who will partner with the UPI, the unified payment interface. And once the banks become partner, then payment and settlement can be handled. So so that part is already taken care of. Then there is gift city corridor, right? That is agreed between India and Israel, right? And And then if you don't believe it, then here's the thing: India and UAE rupee trade is already a proof of concept there. Okay, and India and UAE have already traded oil and then few other things in the national currencies. Now, now some of you may think that, oh, so they are going, everybody is moving away from the dollar. No, that's not the case. That's not the case. Okay, see, it's very selective thing. Okay, this is why I say that when people, there are lots of people who make videos on de-dollarization like that, right? Then they forget to mention that those de-dollarizations are actually very selective, and they're optional things. It's not like somebody is mad at the United States, so let's not use dollar at all. That's not the case. uh, these de-dollarizations are done based on the trade volume. So let's say tourism, like for example, right now between India and Israel, if uh, tourism, the income, Israel makes say $50 million through tourism, Indian tourism, or if through Indian tourists, then if Israel is paying $5 to $10 million in just unnecessary fees, not just the dollar exchange rate or conversion fees and all the other things too, then that's not a very good, that's not very profitable business, right? You have to cut that cost. And how do you do that? You do that by eliminating that factor, that is dollar here. So that's how actually countries are selectively cutting the dollar usage from their trade in different areas. Okay, no country is there, I mean, except for Russians. I think that barely Russians and Iranians maybe. Nobody can actually, especially the whole full-fledged supporter of de-dollarization, the people who call themselves de-dollarization expert and all that, they cannot tell you 5 countries. I'm not even talking about uh, 10, 15, 20 countries. They cannot name 5 countries who have 90% of their trade in, who do their 90% of trade in non-dollar denomination currencies, or say in national currencies. They cannot count 5 countries. I can tell you, they cannot name 5 countries. So, so de-dollarization is there, but it's very selective wherever it fits the bill. That's how it is. Okay. So, so is India and Israel are going to do the same thing too over the period of time. Okay. Now, what exactly is missing in this whole entire thing? The one thing that is missing is the your rupee and shekels currency swap agreement. If we see down the line, if we see any currency swap agreement between currency swap agreement being signed between India and Israel, then you know where this whole entire thing is headed for sure. Okay. And there is another thing is that no Nostro and Vostro account framework is settled yet too. So, and if that happens, then you know that India is going to invest in Israel big time in its own currency, and Israel is going to invest in India in its own currency too. And all that normally is done in when the trade actually grows, like 100 billion, 200 billion, like that. Okay. Now, so Uh, now let's talk about how this whole entire thing, the from US dollar dependency to Indian rupee and your shekels, right? How all these things actually move, right? What are the things that are involved to do these things? All right. So let me share it real quick. So national currency trade works in 3 steps. Okay. Number one is currency swap lines are established. What is currency swap line? Currency swap line basically is that RBI, the Bank of India, Reserve Bank of India, Bank of Israel will sign a bilateral currency swap agreement, and each central bank holds a buffer to the other currency, meaning that you just basically what you do is that the country that has less current of the other country's currency, they just buy it in a way. Okay, and then they use that currency to buy the product from the other country. Like for example, China and Nigeria did this whole currency swap lines. What China did is that China actually bought naira, and China actually gave 2 billion yuan to Nigeria in return for naira. Okay, so this way it actually helped naira, the Nigeria, actually Nigerian currency, to a little bit stabilize as well. And Nigeria got the yuan to import stuff from China. That's what currency swap actually is. Now, Nostro Vostro account. So, if Nostro Vostro account, for example, Nostro Vostro account is simply that um, Israeli companies can actually start a bank account in India in rupee, and Indian companies can start a the bank accounts in Israel in shekels. Okay, and when that happens, then they can make their payments in from those bank accounts locally. All right, that's what Nostro account framework is. Now, and then there is a direct INS, Indian rupee and shekel rate market as well, which can be handled through the gift city as well. All right. So if these things are done, then you know that things are moving forward. Now, what is being done here? The UPI cross-border rail is established. It is signed. Okay. Then if you look at gift city Israel corridor, right? So this is already agreed. Okay. What is not done yet? Currency swap agreement, Nosto framework is not done yet, and direct exchange rate is done yet. Okay. Direct exchange rate will be established down the line. Okay. But as the trade grows, you will see these type of things happening more and more. Now, now, after all this has been discussed, now let's talk about the free trade agreement, the actual free trade agreement. What exactly is the trade baseline? What gets traded, right? What gets traded, then investment footprint, risks, and why it nearly failed, and the historic reset by signing the 16 MoUs. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the trade baseline. Okay, the trade baseline, if you look at the numbers here, um, this trade has been volatile. Yellow is India and blue is Israel. And mostly, if you see, the balance of trade is favoring India, and Israel is in deficit here. Okay, so for year 22-23, $10.7 billion, and 23-24, it was $6.53 billion, excluding defense. Okay, this is just the goods and services trade. And then 2024 and 2025, it was $3.62 billion. It dropped actually for some reason. Okay, so, and that's where the problem is. All right, now, these are the current numbers. All right, and the peak was $10.77 billion. All right, now, what is the trade basket? What exactly is going to be traded actually? Now we are going to talk about what gets traded. So actually, this is sort of interesting here, so you have to be very careful. All right, so watch it very carefully. Okay, now, India exports to Israel diamonds, cut and polished diamond, 35 to 40% of export value. That's major export. Okay, petroleum products, refined fuels, lubricants, and all. So whatever Russian oil India buys, India sells it to the refined. It sells to Israel. Chemicals and pharmaceuticals, generics, APIs, specialty chemicals, and all that. Machinery and electrical equipments, industrial and consumer electronics, apparel and textiles, garments, home furnishing, agricultural products, rice, processed food, spices, and all that. They sell it to Israel. Okay. Now, Israel exports to India. What it is? Israel exports to India diamonds, rough and polished, and defense equipment, agricultural tech systems, chemical and pharma, electronic components, and medical services. Okay. Now, if you notice that they both export diamond to each other. So, what exactly is going on here, right? That's the important part. So, what exactly is going on is that uh, this is a very vicious diamond triangle. What exactly it does is that you have to understand the diamond flow for this. Okay, the diamond flow is like rough diamonds flow from global mines, basically Israel for cutting and design expertise, and it says it sends it to India for polishing and all that, and then again Israel buys it from India for the global markets. Okay, so from the mines it goes rough diamonds, they go to Israel here, design and certification, and they go to trading hub and all. Then they go to India. Over there they get polished and fixed. I mean, designed and all. They made nice, shiny, and all that. And then Israel, they go back to Israel. Okay, that's how it happens, and that's why you are seeing uh, India in export diamond export in both India and Israel. Now, what will be the FTA implications for the diamond sector? So, in this type of situation, you have to understand. In this type of situation, the rules of origin actually matters a lot. Why? Because there can be confusion, there can be stealing too, right? So, especially in the free trade agreement overall, actually, if you look into it, then you find that the rule of origin is very important. Otherwise, there are countries like China who have this, who actually adhere to this bad practice. What bad practice? That they go and they start some company in Mexico, or they will start some company in Canada, and then what they do is that uh, where let's say US already has free trade agreement with, okay, so they're going to start that, and that company in Mexico, now since Mexico already has free trade agreement with the United States, so their company is already getting the benefits of the free trade agreement. Why? Because they started it in Mexico. Okay, so China really won't have to worry about any special free trade agreement with the United States. And if US applies any kind of embargo or major tariff or anything on China, then Chinese companies still make the money utilizing this type of trade malpractices. Okay, that's why rule of origin becomes very important. So what exactly it will determine? Rule of origin will determine whether re-exported polished diamond qualify for FTA tariff benefit, critical for both industries, of course. So where the diamonds actually originated, where it was cut, and what diamonds will be considered there from India, or what will be considered from Israel, like that, right? Then India's GJEPC, Gems and Jewelry Export Promotion Council, expected to lobby hard for favorable certification reciprocity. And Israel's Diamond Exchange is a global price setting hub. So, whatever it is, then they decide at the end of the day what will be the diamond price. Access terms under FTA could shift competitive dynamics for Indian exporters. That can change, right? Because Israel may start to shift those things on their side. Now, risk if standard chapters fail to align, polished good could face duplicate certification costs, eroding the FTA tariff gains. Okay, so those are the things. That's the whole thing. That if countries start to do the malpractice, then there is a problem. No free trade agreement can actually help you. Okay, now let's talk about what's being negotiated. All right, what's being negotiated is somewhat this. There are six negotiating pillars, and each of these pillars are a deal in itself. Okay, for example, tariff on goods. These are cuts at high harmonized systems codes. The global product classification used in all trade deals. Most favored nations equals to default world WTO tariff every country charges. So all these things are being done. The India and Israel will be most favored nations for each other. They will sign all those paperwork. Most favored nation, what does that mean? It means that for the most favored nation, any trade conditions that will be applied, or trade benefits will be given to some other country, the same trade benefits will be given to Israel or India too. Okay, so and what exactly happens here is this, that you have to understand this a little bit, that India applies 13% tariff on Israeli goods, whereas Israel applies 4.4% tariff on Indian goods. And that's simply because India has to protect its market, and uh, for Israel, Israel has to lower the inflation, so Israel doesn't apply that much. Okay, because Israel cannot grow that much stuff, and because of the small land area, and that's the leverage larger countries actually have, especially larger and more productive countries, like India, US, China, Russia. These are productive countries. They have uh, lots and lots of economic activity, right? So they can afford to do these type of things. So when this whole FTA will be signed, then India will have to actually bring down the tariff more, and compared to Israel. Okay, at least Israel will definitely ask that, hey, okay, you cannot bring it down all the way to zero, so at least do it up to bring it to 4.4%, right, up to the same level. So I think that's something they can negotiate. The next one is the rules of origin. This is very important. The eligibility man defines how much value must be added inside India or Israel for goods to qualify for the preferential FTA tariff. Without a strict rule of origin, third countries, e.g., China, could route goods through one partner to exploit the other's lower rates. And that's exactly what I was talking about. So those are the things that have to be established. Okay. Then comes your services and IT access right here. Okay, so this covers information technology, research and development, fintech, then AI. India software exports to Israel already $800 million per year. With no FTA, a formal services chapter defines where firms can operate, hire, and build without it. IT growth stalls at visa and licensing barriers, and that's what India is saying, uh, that you need to take care of that. And Israel has agreed to it too. So that's why 50,000 workers, IT professionals, and others will be going to Israel. The problem actually, I think Israel has a different set of problem. Okay. Uh, Israel was hiring all these people from Gaza. And Israel is very protective about its own Jewish population. So they prefer to get married in their own population and all that good stuff. But when, say, people, when there will be more and more people from outside, other countries are going to go over there, then chances are that intermixing will start, and intermixing may not be very good for Jewish community either. And then there are other things too, that right now there is only Gaza thread. Then chances are that uh, when they open the visa and all that, then you may start to see other problems coming through them, through other channels, through, say, India or some other country or somewhere else, right? So all those problems they want to uh, make sure that they are under control. So that's why they are very restrictive about it. Now, next thing that is being negotiated is standard SPS and TBTs. So SPS sanitary and phytosanitary food safety rules. Then basically all these are just your, I would say, policies, right? So pesticide limit standards, technical barriers to trade, and all that, product specs, testing labs, certification, all these things they're discussing. And how, so meaning that when you're trading with each other, then you want to make sure that uh, both the products from both countries are following the same standard. It's not like standard for Indian products in Israel are very high, whereas Israeli products in India, those standards are low. So one can give benefit, one lowering anything can give benefit to the other country. So those type of things have to be addressed as well. That's why, see, even a small policy making type of thing also matters, right? Then other thing is the custom facilitation, the clearance speed, advancing rules, all this. Again, this is clerical things behind the scenes. Like, you have to increase the process so the trade does not take forever and deals do not take forever to move forward, because in trade time is money. It's very important. Okay, then intellectual property is the last thing that will be discussed. Not last but not least, though, and this is very important, because if there is a joint collaboration, let's say technology transfer or something, then how all that will be handled, and then how the dispute will be resolved. And of course, like, see, just because, thing is this, just because Prime Minister Netanyahu and Prime Minister Modi are friend, doesn't mean that there won't be differences. There won't be differences between the companies and all that, right? So businesses, how businesses are going to resolve their trade differences and all that, right? So all that will be handled. All that is handled in the intellectual property and all these policies and all that. Uh, then comes the your tariff asymmetry, right? We have talked about all this, right? India has more to give, and as you can look from this trade graph and all that, that how India loses more. I mean, by when India cuts the tariff and all, and Israel, even if Israel does not increase, Israel is still gets some benefit. But more more you balance the trade, actually longer the trade actually lasts. That's the thing, that India has to now worry about the longevity of the trade. And same thing for Israel. Why? Because uh, India's trade with the US is also not going very good, because they have also thought, all the tariff and all the drama that happened, and then they realize that, yeah, playing nice and back and forth here and there is not gonna work. Sooner or later India will be targeted as well, and they will be all this will be weaponized. So so this thing actually puts India in a corner to really find as many partners as possible to sign the free trade agreements. Now, another problem that happened with India, or that was underlying in India's trade policies, is the previous government's, uh, I would say, the fallacies, or um, the mistakes. Right? Because the $1 million question is that why all of a sudden India is on a free trade agreement signing spree, right? So what happened is that previous governments, basically what they did is they signed these deals with ASEAN, then South Asian countries, then they signed all these trade deals with, say, Brazil or Gulf countries, the African countries here, whatever trade deals they signed with Japan, South Korea, all that, right? They signed just to import the products from these countries, and rather than doing sign negotiating the trade in a way so that it is favorable for India. No, what they did is they signed all these trade deals so that it is favorable for the other country, and they just focused on importing stuff. Now, when you start to import stuff, then the number one thing that happens is that because of the balance of trade, you lose the foreign exchange, because import comes from the foreign exchange reserve. And if you don't have the foreign exchange, and you keep increasing your import, and you do your and but you're not increasing your export, then what happens? Then you start to go in negative. That means that your currency suffers, then your economy suffers. Okay, all those things happen. Okay, and this is why India's currency actually fell really, really hard over the years. But now what India is doing is that India is on a free trade agreement signing spree. Okay, now if you go map, look into what Prime Minister Modi has done, his visits to all these countries. Those visits are very calculated visits, actually, through ASEAN, Indonesia, Gulf countries, then you have Canada, and all that. The previous government, they never signed any kind of free trade agreement with the Western countries. But they signed these agreements with all the Asian and South Asian countries, the developing countries. So the drawback of signing the free trade agreement with developing countries is that most of the developing countries, let's say China and India, they both have the same thing to offer to each other. So what are they going to what are they going to export to each other, right? And that's where the problem was. So that's why India actually was suffering. Now, when India started to sign the free trade agreement with the Western countries, like India signed with Australia and New Zealand, then they signed it with UK, then they signed it. They're working toward to sign things with Canada as well, and then they're working on the deal with US as well. But let's see how that pans out. But overall, and then European Union, the major mother of all deals, right? So now what happens is that when India signs all these trade deals with the Western partners, then India has leverage, and India can actually export things. And therefore, India's trade is going to go in surplus, right? So now let's look at the investment footprint. Investment footprint. The India's ODI into Israel is 396 million. Oh, that is overseas direct investment between 2000 to 2024, and Israel's foreign direct investment in India is 315 million. Okay, so and then there is a Haifa Port, Adani Haifa Port deal is it's not linked to FTA, but this is $1.18 billion deal. And Haifa, so why Haifa Port actually changes the equation? Haifa Port changes the equation because 51% Adani Ports has 51% stake in Haifa Port. Okay, so this gives India a physical gateway into Western Mediterranean, which is Haifa Port. Actually, the Adani Haifa Port is the, I would say, one of the nodes in the IMEC, India Middle East European Union corridor. Okay, for which all these things are being signed right now. So all the FTA that India is signing, if you notice that all those countries they fall around these corridors. All right, so that's that. Now, what are the risks and all? And risk, there have been lots and lots of risks between India and Israel. Okay, first thing is geopolitical volatility. So that region is filled with conflicts, and we already know that. I don't even have to mention that thing, and it's really high. Then sensitivity to agriculture. Okay, and Israel's high-tech dairy and agricultural tech, basically it faces a strong protectionist lobbying in India. India has actually, I will tell you this, so Israel has shared lots of agricultural technology to India as well. And Israel's agriculture can be very, it can overtake Indian agriculture culture in no time, hurting the Indian farmers. Okay, so Indian government does not want to take that risk. All right. Then rules of origin, as we talked about, services and reciprocity gap, then pharma and intellectual property minefield. All these are the clear cut pain points that can derail the whole entire deal. Okay. Now, so what exactly happened in over the years? The India and Israel they have had the 8 rounds of talk, but in 15 years, but zero deal was signed. Okay, 2010 to 2013, 3 rounds. That was a different government, and they refused to put agriculture, dairy, and hundreds of textile lines on the table. They just simply refused it. India's farm lobby, food processing sector, and all that. But I believe that yes, they came up with this idea, but I think that they were more friendly with Iran during those days. So I think they just tried to drag this thing further and leave it be and pushed it out. Now, then comes the round 4 and 6. So from 2010 to 2013, round 1 to round 3 were completed. Then 2014 to 2017, when they decided, all right, let's take this forward. So intellectual property versus pharma and all those service deadlocks happen. Okay. And so India basically flatly refused all this. Then came 2019 to 2000, and so between 2017 and 2018, there were no talks of free trade agreement. All right, but 2019 to 2021, there was COVID. So because of that, there were no talks, nothing, everything. Israel was going under political paralysis. There were lots and lots of government changes, elections, all that mumbo jumbo was happening. Right, they had 4 national elections in 2 years. So no government actually lasted. No government actually lasted long enough to authorize a final deal. So that also dragged. All right. So finally, the in the new one this time, in November 2025 to February 2026, this is a restart. Then round 1 complete, 3 new variables made it happen. So round 1 is complete. Round 2 will move up for will happen in May 2026. Okay. Now here's the thing you have to understand, that other thing that's very important about the deal is that if let's say let's look at the graph here real quick. Okay. Now, if there is no FTA, conservative to no FTA, it just flat. It's flat. It stays around 5 to 6 billion. That's about it by 2030. Okay, and if there is moderate FTA, then it reaches up to say close to 15 billion. Okay, but if there is a proper FTA, then we are talking about up to $25 billion of trade between India and Israel by 2030. Okay, and that is something very important. Why? Because Israel's GDP right now is what, $520 billion. Out of that $520 billion, if bilateral trade potential is $25 billion, then that in itself is a very big deal. Okay, now what are the 16 MOUs that have been just signed? We have discussed this. Let me just wrap this up real quick. Okay, uh, so defense tech, Iron Dome class, Beam, David Sling, and Arrow systems. This is gonna be under. These are all signed under Mission Sudarshan Chakra. And with Mission Sudarshan Chakra, actually, I had made a video about it where India is planning to design the integrated missile defense system, which will be actually controlled by the artificial intelligence, the AI, and it will be a strategic confidentiality framework for advanced tech transfer. So from there, they're gonna India and Israel are working on this thing. Then comes the AI. So India and Israel are gonna work on their own full stack AI. Okay, they're not gonna rely on American AI or some other country's AI stack. Why? Because then that creates a dependency, and that's what the whole entire AI summit was all about: the democratization of artificial intelligence, so that it cannot be weaponized down the line. But I'm pretty sure that yeah, you can organize all kinds of AI summits and all that, and call democratization and all those things. But the reality is that people still do it, right? People still want to weaponize it. Look at what happened with dollar, right? When dollar started, then it was all in good faith and all that, but faith does not define the policy. So we all saw how dollar was being weaponized all over, and same thing with AI too. So now if you notice that the American government is offering their AI stack to everyone. They want to offer their AI stack to South Asian countries, the Asian countries, to basically compete with China, so that no other country can come up with their own AI stack as well. Okay, but let's see how this is gonna play out. But I think that if they are gonna offer all these things, then chances are that AI will be weaponized sooner or later. Okay, then comes then agriculture and agri tech. That is gonna be another thing. Fintech and finance, UPI, we talked about it. Gift City, we talked about it. That this is part of MOU. Okay, so that right there is the de-dollarization. Okay, then now here, defense tech also was the same thing, meaning that if India and Israel really move forward with this whole thing, proper development of Iron Dome, Iron Beam, with full technology transfer, because Israel's need to diversify its defense is very, it's of paramount importance. Okay, it's ultimate importance, utmost importance, I would say. Okay, so if that happens, then Israel definitely would want to take cost cutting measures, and same thing with India too. And I won't be surprised if they set up all these things in national currency trade. Okay, so that because it becomes a national security issue, right? And they definitely wouldn't want to uh, use a currency that can get weaponized and become a roadblock down the line for their any defense purchase or anything, any other procurement. Okay, so that's why I think that besides UPI and UPI's cross-border payment system and Gift City and all that, I think uh, once this defense tech starts to take off, um, we will see other stuff like currency swap, Nostro accounts, all those things will start to happen as well. Okay, then other MOUs are in cybersecurity, education. Education is another factor in de-dollarization, labor mobility, 50,000 Indian workers to receive regulated employment pathways in Israel. That's also the thing. So this is also another factor that can actually lead to national currency trades and all that. Why? Because when you have that many workers, then yeah, why not just have the national currency trade? It will be actually a lot easier and a lot better. Then special strategic partnership relationship formally elevated beyond previous strategic partnership signals intent of defense cooperation and technology co-development at scale. You have to understand this thing, co-development at scale, because Israel is after Israel ran short of these interceptors and America couldn't provide those interceptors on time. That's why there is a buildup in Strait of Hormuz actually. The buildup is not because they want to that they want to tackle Iran or they're gonna attack Iran or something. America has all kinds of ICBM. You really believe that America is fool enough to go and put their aircraft carrier right next to Iran so that they can attack Iran? If they really want to destroy Iran, they have Americans have precision weapons. Okay, they can fire the ICBM right from American soil, and they can take care of Iran in no time. And Iran won't be able to do anything simply because Iran doesn't have anything to do anything. And so, building up all the aircraft carrier, naval fleet, and everything over there is just so that in case Iran gets any ideas to attack Israel, then those things can be addressed and intercepted on time. Okay, that's the whole reason behind the buildup. As soon as Israel gets enough interceptors manufactured in the stock, okay, as soon as Israel gets all those, I'm telling you, soon, slowly and slowly, they will walk away from there. The full fleet and everything, the buildup will be removed immediately. You will see that. So, so the FTA is being written, what is being done and what's not being done. Okay, let's look at this, and I think that we are pretty close to end this thing. Okay, so FTA is being written right now. What is this? Step of bilateral investment agreement signed, done. Then terms of reference signed, done. Round one talk is done. Round two talk will be second in person. Round six schedule it is scheduled in Israel. Okay, intersessional virtual negotiation ongoing between the rounds. Chief negotiator Ajay Babu Badu and Yafet Alon Parel, he's from Israel. They are, and then 2026 further remainder rounds and all that has to be finalized. All right, lots of things are the key open issues are agriculture, dairy, usuals, pharma, the intellectual property, services and IT visa, rules of origin, digital trade chapter, all these good stuff that usuals. Okay, they are still a pain point. So, and then let's talk a little bit about the defense and technology deep dive. Okay, I'm not gonna go too much into detail, but there it is. Okay, so what is the Mission Sudarshan? Mission Sudarshan is India's new defense architecture. Four Israeli air defense and directed energy systems are being integrated into unified Indian layered shield. So India is working on a layered shield, that the way they actually use it. India's SAM systems are basically layered, and they are actually controlled by the AI. What happens behind the scenes is that uh, the software or the program already it determines if the target is being hit, how far the target is, all those things accurate, so that your interceptor can go and hit the target on time. And if it misses, then the software takes care of that thing too, that hey, it's missed, next one in line, go. So automatically those things are taken care of. Okay, now with and since Israel needs Iron Dome regular intervals, then Iron Beam regular intervals, David Sling, all these things, then the both countries need. So that's why this whole entire deal will be signed, so that India can actually sell this thing to Israel as well. Okay, sell it or just give it to Israel. I mean, depending on how they're gonna work on this whole thing, I don't know. But whatever it is, this export is gonna be done in national currencies. There is no other way to do this thing. Okay, Iron Dome will be what 7 to 70 kilometers. Then Iron Beam is a high energy laser weapon system, and its range will be 7 kilometers. Then there is David Sling. So range is 40 to 300 kilometers. This is an anti-ballistic missile intercept. Okay. Then Arrow system, exo-atmospheric ballistic missile defense systems. That's the ICBM and all that. Arrow 3 range 2400 kilometer, altitude 100 plus kilometers, space intercept. Okay, meaning that if the intercept ICBM and long range ballistic missiles outside the atmosphere, among the world's most advanced ballistic missile defense system, India's use case second tier protection against nuclear capable IRBM, ICBM threats. And not just that, actually, uh, that is going to tackle hypersonic missiles too, like hypersonic systems, payload carriers, or payload deployment systems like Oreshnik, like Russian Oreshnik, right? What Oreshnik is nothing but the ICBM that goes into the atmosphere, the stratosphere, and all that. It goes all the way to the top, and then it just drops the payload, and that payload falls, and by the time it reaches the terminal velocity, it is already at 25G or something. Okay, Mach 25, it reaches that Mach 25. Sorry, I'm saying 25G, Mach 25. Okay, it reaches that, and when it reaches Mach 25, then that's way faster, hypersonic and all that, right? And then it starts to, one at a time, it starts to deploy those payloads and all that. But payload actually, I think the payload is deployed before, but when the payload actually falls, then it goes at Mach 25 and all that. That's what Oreshnik is, basically uses the MIRV. So what's gonna happen here is this, that with this Arrow systems, you can actually destroy those before the payload can be deployed. That's all it is. Okay, so at least if you cannot destroy the whole thing, then at least you can minimize the damage by this. So these are the things that are being discussed. Okay, now this, so why is this FTA is about more than just trade? Well, of course, first thing first is that this is India's multipolar play. And last year when the whole tariff war was going on, then India's foreign minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, he said that India is going to work on the shorter supply chains. So India is not going to rely on longer supply chains anymore. Shorter supply chains, meaning that countries that are within the radius of this whole entire Asian continent, that is countries like European Union, then Middle East, then you have African continent is there, then you have Asian countries, ASEAN countries are there, right? South Asian countries, like that. And so that's what India is doing right now. This is a multipolar play, and that's what India is doing. That's why India is signing these trade agreements across all the countries, all the geographies here and there. All right. Then for Israel, Israel needs strategic depth. Israel needs supply chain depth, robust supply chain, so that it's not get embargoed or anything when time comes, right? Then another thing is the I2U2 backdrop. So lots of things you are seeing: India, Israel, UAE, and USA. Uh, and so they are working on this IMEC deal. Okay, the IMEC trade corridor. So uh, that's another aspect of it. So that's why, I mean, there's lots of angles are there. Okay, and there are lots and lots of powers that are actually wanting to make a comeback, and all that has to be tackled. Otherwise, if you don't try to if you don't establish the balance, then there will be other powers that are going to try to rise, and then that may create the imbalance, right? So you want to do that, and that's why we are seeing hexagon, then free trade agreements, and all other things. And then we are looking into defense trade. The line is blurry, and this is where I'm saying that with this defense trade is one thing that actually starts everything, that starts the trade in national currencies. If you look into India Russia trade, India started to buy Russian S-400 and all that in the national currencies. It wasn't in dollar or anything. simply because of this thing, because they knew that if Russians get sanctioned, then what? If Israelis get sanctioned, or let's say if India gets sanctioned, then what Israel is going to do? Or there is some other problem that somebody, you never know, right? So that's why certain matters of national security should be shielded from this type of weaponization. So all in all, guys, this is what the whole entire free trade agreement is, and this is why I am seeing that uh, this is just the beginning of India and Israel defense cooperation to balance out the Middle East and the West Asia, or the West Asia, from where you look at it. And this is gonna be, sooner or later, it will start with the with tourism and few other things, as far as national currencies are concerned. But as these defense deals that are there, these defense procurements start to go in production, you will see that everything will shift towards non-dollar trade between India and Israel too. Okay. So that's where everything is headed, guys. All right. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And this is it for this video, guys. And I will talk to you guys in another video. Please do like and subscribe and take care.